Sarzeau to claim his second stage victory of this year's race. The top 10 on general classification remain unchanged, with BMC's Greg Van Avermaet staying in yellow. Dan Martin survived a crash and stays 1 minute and 38 seconds down on the race leader. He moves up in the general classification to 33rd. However, we'll be looking to claw back some of that time tomorrow. The first kind of hilly stage takes them from Lorient to Quimper.
Cheers, Richie. Back underway in St. Petersburg. France 0, Belgium 0, 46 minutes on the clock. No changes in so much as we can see at half-time, Keith?
No changes. Matuidi gets through a hell of a lot of work, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Because Griezmann likes to tuck in into those little narrow areas. Matuidi starts central, then has to get out. Mbappe's on another little charge here. We already mentioned how many times he's looked bright when he's been on the ball, but numbers again just snuff him out. But yeah, I'm still going for Belgium, but this is going to be very tense. I think the longer this game goes on, they could retreat even more.
Does this have extra time written all over it? It has 1-0 maybe.
It has 1-0 with those players that we've bigged up in the attacking areas because of how good they are and what they're capable of. Hazard, Lukaku's been quite quiet actually. He's been marshalled fairly well. They haven't really managed to get him into the game. But Mbappe certainly looked like the one, from a French perspective, the most likely, and Hazard for Belgium for me.
Yeah, I guess the team that goes 1-0 up, the other team have the talent, if they throw caution to the wind, to nick one back. Then again, they might get hit in the break. It could go anyway. This is just tight and tense.
The only thing is, if Belgium get the goal...
Lukaku cross in, over the bar.
You just scored that shot. What happened? Was it a cross?
Well, it was a cross from deep. It was more of a diag. It was about 20 yards back from the corner of the box, and it was floated in. It was a touch behind.
I think that's a chance.
It was a touch behind him, and he was under pressure, and he just got under it a bit. He just got a touch ahead of it.
I think if Belgium get the first goal, France might struggle, because we've seen France trying to break opposition down when they retreat.
Quite slow.
Yeah. Mbappe needs the space to run into.
Yeah.
I think Belgium have the players, if they need to, with De Bruyne, Mertens, to come on more potent and compact little give and go areas, whereas I think France could struggle. Mbappe up against Vertonghen, and look, Dembele's over to cover. That's what France need to do to help out Pavard when Hazard starts isolating him. Speak of the devil.
48 minutes on the clock. France 0, Belgium 0. Earlier on, I spoke to this man, Graham Hunter, about Cristiano Ronaldo. Graham, I never believe in lying to the listeners. This is take 2. JP wasn't recording.
Take 1, listen, I don't believe in lying either. Take 1 was absolutely marvellous.
Don't think we can beat take 1, really, can we?
Well, I won't swear again, but listen, intro music like that, from the king of rock, the king of pop music, the king of British music, to, the king of European football. You said in take 1, so I'm going to steal your line, because it was a good one, end of era.
Yeah.
Let me say, before we talk one more instant about Cristiano Ronaldo, Joe, and I know you've savoured some of this personally in tournaments, Champions League and in Spain. It's been magnificent. I regard it as a blessing to have been a chronicler of football and sport in Spain while Cristiano Ronaldo has been there, jousting with Leo Messi. It's exciting and interesting that he's going to Juventus. I think for some days we've believed that there's substance in it. I can't remember if I've talked to you and off the ball about the idea, but one, just as somebody who adores sport, I'm really grateful for having been around at Cristiano Ronaldo's 9 years in Real Madrid. I've often been both supportive, critical, and in praise of him. But without being too soppy, I'd like to say, thanks, Chris.
Yeah, it was a pretty amazing time. And even that El Clasico was imbued with this extra dimension that was Ronaldo versus Messi. It was a wonderful thing. Everybody was intrigued by it and captivated by it, and watched their rivalry relationship evolve over the last 9 years as well. So it's been amazing in so many different ways. I mean, I must say, beyond just the usual noise that always follows around a Ronaldo or a Messi, I hadn't really realised that there were issues at Madrid, or that Ronaldo might be looking elsewhere. It wasn't until those post-Champions League final quotes where effectively he said, look, we'll have to see what happens. The fans will have their answer in the next few days, that I thought, ooh, this is actually potentially serious for Madrid. There are many reasons why he might want to go. Do we know what they are, though, in actuality?
We do, Joe, and unlike you, I fear that I'm repeating myself, and I believed in them a year ago, and I did speak to Off the Ball about this, and it's worth going back a year, because in Cardiff, a former Manchester United teammate called upon Cristiano Ronaldo in the team hotel prior to the match against Juventus. And I've explained this, but I'll say it again, because it was factual then, it appeared risible. And we have to accept that many people find it easy to take the piss out of Ronaldo or to mock him or to disbelieve him. But what he said that day to his ex-teammate at Manchester United was, I have never been looked after properly at Real Madrid. If Manchester United were a club in the Mediterranean region, I'd move to them tomorrow. I can't go back to Manchester United because I will not tolerate that northwestern English weather. But Real Madrid don't value me. They don't treat me properly. What it sounds like is prima donna rubbish. They've been a marvellous platform for him to become the best version of himself, which is all he ever really wanted. Admittedly, he explicitly wants to be regarded, to achieve and be regarded as the greatest player of all time, which he's not going to do. But Real Madrid have probably given him a greater platform than he could have even got at Manchester United, if you consider how they've changed without Ferguson, without David Gill, with the decline in signings, etc.
Yeah.
But from a year ago, he was speaking from the heart. It wasn't meant to leak out. He was complaining bitterly. And nobody, I think, in your pretty hard-bitten and knowledgeable off-the-ball audience is going to be weeping into their cups of tea or their pints of black right now about it. But the remarks after this Champions League victory, which is the ones you're talking about, had been festering with him during the year. He'd argue with Real Madrid about the contract, his wages. He'd been promised a wage rise. He didn't think it was coming quickly enough. They said, right, okay, if you want to leave, we'll help you. We'll, if you can find somebody willing to buy you for 100 million euros, 100 million euros plus, i.e. we more than get our money back, then we'll let you go. And of course, what's now apparent, and from those he briefs in Spain, we're a tight group, but then they speak a lot, the fact that Real Madrid were willing to lower his buyout clause from €1 billion to 100 million euros was a terrible insult. You don't want me in that case. It's like, haggling is a very difficult, offence-laden business.
Yeah.
And he took it that their even willingness to talk about selling him to a competitor meant that his time was up. And I think this has been maybe 6 months in the brewing.
Yeah.
And the tipping factor, Joe, was that overhead goal in Turin when the fans applauded him. Now, you remember in the night, he did that sort of, well, thank you, I'm not worthy, or I'm humble about your applause in Turin. And in the mixed zone afterwards, spoke about his eternal high regard for the Turin club and how Juventus had always been important. Okay. But it began there.
Really? Very interesting. So I see it's a 4-year deal. He's 33 years old, 4-year deal, €30 million a year in wages. That may not be the full picture. There might be image rights and other ancillary things. And
well, let's break it, Joe, let's break it down. As I understand it, that's €25 million net of tax. So that's your take home, plus 5 in incentives.
Yeah.
It's a very, very big salary. And two things are important if we want to understand this deal. Number one, he wanted to be the best paid player in the world. Now, whether that beats Neymar or Messi, I profess not to know.
Yeah.
But to be loved, to be appreciated, to be the object of everybody's desire is the vitamin injection that Cristiano Ronaldo needed. And he's going to surf that over the next few weeks.
What was he on at Madrid? What was the gulf?
Yeah, this is a move up whereby, number one, he would get a raise of in the region of 6 or 7 million, somewhere there, in terms of the basic euros that he would take home. So that's taking him from somewhere in the region of 18, 19 up to 25 plus 5. I think it will emerge that the money being offered from Real Madrid and the money being offered from Juventus are almost inseparable, almost identical.
Right.
And what's tipped it is that, number one, and this is just ludicrous, the tax bill, which he's accepted having to pay about 21, 22 million euros. Well, if you pay that and you accept the fine, then you owed it. But that's something that's helped shuttle him out of Spain. He didn't feel supported by Real Madrid in a case where his advisors, at very least, have been proven to owe the Spanish state the money that they use for paying for schools and hospitals. And that that hasn't helped, and that's a ludicrous thing to say on a sports show, but it's a factual reporting of the truth, and therefore it isn't simply that Juventus are paying him 25 after tax plus 5 in incentives that he will achieve. It's about being the right time for this constant battle between Florentino Perez and Cristiano Ronaldo about who's more important, whose word is law. And as much as though Cristiano Ronaldo has made Florentino Perez the great president he wanted to be, more than David Beckham did, more than Figo did, more than Zidane the player did, there has been this constant sore, this constant weeping sore, that it was Ramon Calderón who signed Ronaldo and was out of office by the time the deal was fulfilled. And Ronaldo has never looked upon Florentino Perez as the man who came and got him and came and wrenched him from Manchester United. And Florentino Perez has always resented the fact that it was a previous president who had just won the league as well that signed Ronaldo. And it's how ludicrous is it that these two men who aspire for their egos and their personalities to be known the world over couldn't find a consistent joining point when each of them, the symbiotic relationship made each of them greater than they were without the other.
Yes, and there would have been ample opportunity over the last number of years. It's not like there have been amazing high points for them to really consolidate the relationship and take it to a new level. That's part one of Graham Hunter. We pre-recorded him earlier on. Part two coming up in just a second. But there has been a goal. France 1, Belgium 0. Keith's man, Umtiti, courtesy of Fellaini's head. It was a flick at the front post, a corner. Yet again, a corner, a set piece in this World Cup.
Set piece have been massive, haven't they? VAR has been a big part of that because defenders are scared. If I'm grabbing you, it's going to be flagged up. But corner kick delivered. Fellaini's in the front post screening area. Why he's there, I'm not so sure. They probably don't trust him man marking somebody. So Alderweireld is marking Umtiti, gets a little run on him, but he's going into Fellaini's area. We're just seeing another replay of it here. Yeah. Gets there across Fellaini, gets the head to it, then it flicks off Fellaini's afro and just whizzes past Courtois because of the pace on the header. So obviously Alderweireld should do better and not let him get in a run, but very difficult because he's quite sharp on Titi, but Fellaini has to do better.
Does Fellaini have to do better?
He has to do better. He has to see the run, and as he's moving across, he needs to attack the ball and get his body across where Umtiti's running to.
Umtiti did very well though, didn't he?
Great header.
Yeah.
Really great. And attacked
a good run
it very aggressively. Yeah, well worked set piece.
So we've just seen Roberto Martinez there on the sideline doing that gesturing to his players to breathe in, stay calm, which is a sure sign that Roberto Martinez is panicking like hell. We all need to stay calm. So 58 minutes on the clock. France 1, Belgium 0. More from Graham Hunter. So it really does, I mean, because you've sort of part answered my next question, but as you initially started your answer, I was thinking when we were talking about the money that it would have been, it seems, entirely possible for Madrid to keep Ronaldo for another year or 2 or 3 if they had so wished. So it is a Perez decision. How will it go down, I wonder? Will this damage Perez's standing?
I think you need to take that as part of a jigsaw picture. No Zidane. It's very, very clear, and Florentino Perez did no job in hiding it, that he was both surprised and hurt at Zidane leaving. Next, you need to take the Ronaldo departure in context of the point gap between Barcelona and Real Madrid. The Barcelona side that won the league was consistent. It was intelligently reworked. It was a poetic triumph for first-time coach at the Camp Nou, Valverde. There were 1 or 2 positions in which you could say, well, they've done really well there. But vintage? Elite Barca? No. And yet the point gap for the Madridistas was enormous, very nearly historic. And therefore, Ronaldo's departure can only be reviewed in that context, Joe. The signing of Lopetegui, for those Madridistas who care as much about La Roja as they do about Madrid, and there are some, it was a Pyrrhic win. It is absolutely clear, and this is where the story gets nice and intricate, please, Lord, let Juventus and Real Madrid play each other in the Champions League, rather than just a friendly in America, which they will be playing this summer with or without Ronaldo. Maxi Allegri, the Juventus coach, said, I was approached by Real Madrid and I turned them down. So having been approached and offered a pretty dream job to then broadcast it to the world and say, Lopetegui, you're at best second choice, and I'd estimate maybe third or fourth choice. There is a very, very complex and interesting next few months ahead for Florentino Perez and Julian Lopetegui. Who they recruit, how do they restructure the side? Do they give more kudos and trust to younger players like Vallejo, like Llorente? Or is it automatic that they must make 2 or 3 absolute Galactico signings? And Joe, the litmus test for this deal by Florentino Perez isn't the fact that Cristiano Ronaldo turns 34 in February. It's the fact that he's been the mainstay of 3 straight Champions League wins. When he signed for around 100 million euros, it was a world record. 100 million euros right now buys you what, Joe? Name the player that you think it buys.
It buys you Neymar's right leg, I think.
And therefore, have they got anything like the sum of money that they'll need to come anywhere close to replacing somebody of his predominance, his importance and ability to turn up on the big occasions? No.
Yeah. Increasingly, I just am of the conclusion that, yes, Zidane may have been somewhat burnt out, but he smelled where this was going. He knew what way the wind was blowing here. And Ronaldo's decision copper fastens that. How will he do at Juventus then? Is it a more pedestrian Serie A league where he'll pick? I mean, I presume for him to win league titles in England and then Spain and then Italy is a very nice thing for your CV. By all means, they'll have a crack at the Champions League as well. But hey, look, he's won his fair share there. It's a slightly more pedestrian league. It made suit him down to the ground.
Whoa, Joe, listen, if I'm on here to share the things I've learned about Cristiano Ronaldo over the years, boy, he's there to win the Champions League. Let's go no further than that. Listen, the finalists in 15 in Berlin, finalists in 17 in Cardiff. They didn't have the final element. They didn't have the nous to get over the line. They ran Barcelona much closer in terms of what the scoreline will say when the third goal came late into 89th minute injury time. The scoreline in Cardiff is something of a lie, in that Real Madrid played very well second half, but for 55 minutes, it was a real battle. I know that the technical experts in the UEFA committee came out of halftime in Cardiff thinking that Juventus were going to win it, little knowing that there'd been a pitched battle in the dressing room between Bonucci and the rest of the squad about Dybala, and Alves had pitched in it. Cristiano Ronaldo has gone to Juventus so that, number one, he can win the Champions League at a third different club. Number two, so that he and his supporting cast can say to Leo Messi and his supporting cast, where have you been during your career? How many leagues? That will happen. Absolutely guaranteed. And not by journalists, not just by opportunists. It's part of the strategy. And then further to that, I think that Cristiano Ronaldo accurately believes that familiarity breeds contempt. And I think that he believes that if he is a league winner and a high scorer in Serie A, which, given the service, because both of us and all your viewers and listeners know on Off the Ball that it's not the same Cristiano Ronaldo who owns the ball for half the game and can run from 40 yards and dribble past 6. That's not the case. It'll be about service. If he is scoring lots of goals, winning Serie A, and should go close with Juventus in the Champions League or indeed win it, he's tilting at better money, a Champions League trophy with a third different club, and more Ballons d'Or. He said already twice in the last 10 months, I expect to play at the highest level until I'm 40.
Yeah. And Graham, just so I've 2 last questions then, and we have about 2-3 minutes to hit them. If the Juventus chairman was to ring you and he said, Graham, I was listening to you on Off the Ball and I heard you talk about this business about Ronaldo not feeling the love at Real Madrid, and he asked you, is he a needy character? Do I need to be phoning this guy every couple of weeks? Do I need to put my arm around his shoulder? Or was it actually just cold, hard cash?
No, Agnelli has listened to this in another universe and already knew the answer, because the way in which he has feted Cristiano Ronaldo and Jorge Mendes since that night in Turin, when the germ of the idea began to flourish and began to be something that they knew through Jorge Mendes that Ronaldo was open to.
Yeah.
Agnelli has been, and he's not the sole power there, it's clear, but they have an intricate structure at Juventus. One of the things they did after Calciopoulos, after relegation, after building back, was diversify the skill base in the board. And therefore, for example, people might not understand that because of the way the Champions League pot has divided up, Juventus have won, before this season's money is calculated, 275 million euros simply from Champions League participation alone, because they've done well in the tournament and they've got the money that goes with performance. But the marketing pot, because until last season with Roma, no Italian team was taking anything away from the marketing pot. And 275 million, Joe, in the 3 seasons prior to this is extraordinary. So the cold hard cash was there, but that was just the plinth upon which this was constructed. Yes, they will need to show him love. And your question needs to be, once they've got him, once the marriage is set, is the fizz and the romance and the sexiness still there? That's something for everybody around Juventus. And I mean everybody, from the kit men up through the fellow players, through the physio, through the court journalists, to the manager, to the directors, to the person in charge of player liaison. Everybody better be on their game consistently, otherwise we'll hear about it. And I'll tell you something, when I went to Dani Alves to interview him at Juventus, he said in front of the staff who took him to the room that we were filming with him in, this is a small club, small mentality. Compared to Barcelona, Dani Alves wasn't satisfied with life at Juventus.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. I'm suddenly thinking of that scene in that Ronaldo documentary where Mendes makes a toast at dinner and starts screaming about how incredible and wonderful Ronaldo is. And as a right-thinking person, you watch it and assume that Ronaldo will be slightly embarrassed by this over-the-top display. But in fact, it's just about hit par in the level of...
as a right-thinking person at Juventus, you should be copying down the words and saying it every day when you see him.
He's the greatest! The greatest!
What are you?
Well, listen. Hey, one last point. So Spain have a new manager. How's that been received?
Yeah, with aggression. Luis Enrique, as you very well know, does not go out of his way to make friends in the media, and therefore there is a clique, and I could name them, many of whom are arseholes, if I can use that word, bleep it out if I can.
No, it's in.
Who only think of their own egos and their own relationship and how I'm treated, when all we are is, however skilled we are, we're only messengers, we're only chroniclers. And they have been appalled at the fact that this guy who was once a Real Madrid player and who, on leaving Real Madrid in 1996 for Barcelona, has done very little to dispel the idea that he's anti-Madridista. And when his Barcelona team or his Celta team were beating Real Madrid, Luis Enrique danced a jig of joy and loved it. And therefore, there are people in the Spanish media corps who are appalled by this and who will sharpen their knives and wait for England at Wembley or Croatia away in the Nations coming up this autumn. Pretty good little group, Croatia, Spain, England. Not if you're Spain, I would imagine. However, is he the right man? Potentially. His relationship with Molina, the new sports director, is very good based on time together in the national team. It's when you see the flimsy, risk-averse, timid way that Spain have played the last 2 tournaments, let's leave Brazil to another day. Luis Enrique has got elements that will potentially allow the talents in this current Spain setup to sharpen their minds, to wake up and apply their ability in a far more vertical, pushing, pressing, open, exciting way. The Real Madrid players that he's got to inherit, Lucas, Asensio, Isco, Sergio Ramos. Let's come back to that subject, Joe.
Okay, very interesting. Graham, thanks so much. Pleasure as always.
And you, man.
There we are, Graham Hunter speaking to us earlier on. 70 minutes on the clock still. France 1, Belgium 0. That Umtiti goal, that header in the second half. The difference, Belgium are hunting for an equaliser. Fellaini went close with a header. Keith Andrews in the way with more.
Off the ball on News Talk. News Talk Breakfast.
The Lewis have their own security officers. Ian Rotheran even increased their own security staff. But the problem, Paul, is that they've no powers of arrest and detention. And that's the issue. When an incident happens, you call the guards, you have to wait for the guards to arrive. So they're up to their eyes at some